Yo, what's good everybody? It's Sketch and welcome back to the channel. And on today's episode, we're taking a look at Ninja Assault, an on-rail shooter developed and published by Namco and Sega in select regions. This coin-op cabinet hit arcades in November of 2000 and received a port to the PlayStation 2 a couple years later in 2002. It's an interesting rail shooter since it's essentially Time Crisis Feudal Japan Edition, which is a rad concept. But before we get too much further, let's check out the story for this here. In the age of the provincial wars, the nation of Tension is in a state of unrest while being invaded by the Shogun Kigai and their endless army of demon soldiers. The Kigai have kidnapped Princess Koto, and in order to serve as sacrifice so her powers can be absorbed by the Shogun, it's up to the ninja duo Guren and Gunjo to rescue the princess and destroy the Kigai army by means of the forbidden weapon known as the Mach Gun, a gun powerful enough to even slay the mightiest of deities. Gameplay wise, you have an on-rail shooter in a similar vein to the Time Crisis series, just minus the action pedals. You'll run through a total of 9 stages, either solo or co-op, and mow down waves of Kigai soldiers. The objective here is pretty simple: hit as many enemies as you can while not taking too much damage and get the highest score possible. This is also one of several games that's also compatible with the Namco Gun-Con 2. You have unlimited ammo, just requiring to shoot off screen to reload, and can pick up scrolls along each level which can heavily damage enemies and at times work as a screen wipe. You also get a life bar allowing you to take several hits, but once it's empty, it's game over. Starting with 9 credits, you'll blast through the legions of Kigai and get multipliers by consistently chaining kills together without missing shots or taking damage, which will give you a huge score bonus. Ninja Assault at times has a vibe similar to House of the Dead considering how the enemies are placed, and in the sense that the Kigai monstrosities will pop up and swoop in from multiple angles on screen. It can get pretty hectic dealing with a lot of enemies while trying to not take damage and hit those combos, but it's pretty fun to keep trying to keep it all together. Graphics wise, speaking of Sega, Ninja Assault was programmed with the Naomi hardware that coincidentally House of the Dead 2 also runs on, which makes sense with the comparison of the two titles since they're using the same board. Kinda makes you wonder if a Dreamcast port may have been on the table at some point had it released to the home a little bit sooner. You'll see a fairly decent variety of enemies and they all look pretty good here. There are some huge and gnarly looking bosses. Then the further into the game you get, the more similarities to House of the Dead 2 you'll begin to see, even to the point of one boss almost having a similar weak spot and attack pattern. The camera work and cutscenes here are also pretty dope, with the same action movie feel as the Time Crisis games with a mythical twist in some spots. Backgrounds and environments got a fair bit of detail, along with a lot of it being destructible. This game reminds me a lot of a movie called Pistol Opera that released in 2001, and Ninja Assault is equally as much of a ride and as wild in some parts. So if you've never seen that one before, check it out, it's a pretty good one. Sound wise, it's had some pretty cool music to it, and also I forgot until going back over the footage how much techno and drum and bass tunes were here on the soundtrack, so it's pretty hype through the game's 9 stages. There's also a lot of voiceover and cutscenes and while playing through each level, and sound effects here are also pretty decent. While maybe not mind-blowing, everything here sounds pretty good together. Granted, there are some spots where it did feel like the audio could have had a little bit more oomph to it, but those moments go by so quick they're usually fairly hard to notice unless you're actively listening for them. So all in all, the audio is pretty decent here and has some parts that will stick with you after you finish, or at least try to, since this does have some difficulty spikes in the middle and the end. Overall, Ninja Assault is a really fun on-rail shooter with a good bit about it that makes it unique with its choice of time period while also adding in some breakneck pace gunplay. It's a solid pickup for rail shooter fans, and it's a relatively cheap one still too, going for about 20 bucks on average, so it's definitely worth the price. If you have 2 players, it gets buck with everything that's happening on screen. Ninja Assault gets a 7.5 out of 10 and comes recommended to rail shooter fans and arcade game fans alike. It's a fairly solid title while working on the Naomi hardware, and it's got some good looks to it. It's legit a blast to run through it. Once you start getting clears, you'll start to figure out ways to optimize your runs and get crazy bonuses. It really opens up some potential to try to get better scores than the last time, along with the extra gameplay modes that are on offer once you finish the game and get the first clear. So it's got a lot of replay incentive. If you see the cabinet in your area, give it a go, otherwise it's available on the PlayStation 2. And I thank you again for checking out this video. If you find these videos helpful, that's awesome. I'm glad you can use it as a resource. Check back often, we'll have more reviews and commentaries coming up in the near future. But until then, take it easy, stay safe out there. I'll see you on the next one.